Hi everyone, thank you for joining us on today's webinar. My name is Bethany and I'm the Relationship and Engagement Manager here at UMI, and today I'm joined by my colleague Gemma, who is our Engagement Manager.
Hi everyone.
Here at UMI we help businesses by taking the hard work out of finding the very best expertise, information and finance. That's why we're here today with one of the very best experts on business funding. Before we dive in, if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A chat box in your Zoom control panel, and we'll try and answer them as we go. Now, without further ado, today we're here to explore how you can find the right funding for your business. And on that note, I'd like to introduce our guest. So today we have Andrea from Swoop Funding. So hi, Andrea, would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Umi, for having me share some thoughts today. My name's Andrea Reynolds. I'm CEO and founder of swoopfunding.com. So my background is I was a chartered accountant with KPMG, worked with hundreds of businesses to get them funding at different stages from startup right through to selling their businesses. And so today I'm going to be talking about what's out there, how's the market changed, how to maximize your chances of success, and just generally answer any questions or worries that you may have as we're coming into the phase of finally getting back to some sense of normality and what that means for you and your business. So thanks for having me.
That's great, Andrea.
Shall I kick into So shall I share my screen, and maybe, because what I've done is put together a sort of a brief synopsis of what's available, and then speak into each one just very quickly, and then something might resonate with some of the participants today, and then they might want to ask specifically about those. So just give me one moment and I'll share my screen. Quickly give a quick synopsis of what's available. I'm sure you've heard about lots of the schemes that are out there. So what I'm going to do is just quickly retouch upon the government schemes and give you some brief understanding of eligibility. Some of you may be frustrated with the process and haven't had a great experience so far. Some of you might have had great experiences and you're wondering what else you can do to keep going in terms of getting more funding. So start with the government, then we'll move on into sort of non-government, what else is out there, and then some other tips for you on that, and then we can get into questions. I'm happy to answer questions as we go, or we can leave them till the end. I'm easy. So just to give you quick synopsis again of what is out there, the mainstay of the schemes are these three that are of relevance to you. The first one being the big pot that's available in terms of bounce back loans, which are BIBLs, and CBILS, the Coronavirus Business Interruption Loan Scheme. So if you're a fairly young business, or maybe you've got some turnover, but you haven't grown much yet, you haven't had a chance to, then bounce back might be the version for you. So if you're looking for funding up to £50,000, bounce back is the way to go. The minimum facility that you can get is £2,000. So your turnover would need to be at least at £8,000 to be able to apply for it. Just the key thing about it is it's 100% guaranteed by the government. So in other words, if you traditionally went into a bank, they might say, oh, will you sign a personal guarantee? And you personally would have to guarantee payment of the loan if your business failed. In this instance, the government is saying they will take on that personal guarantee. They will also take on your first year's interest repayments, which is phenomenal. And then once the 12 months is over, in terms of them paying your interest, after that, the interest rate will be 2.5%, which is the cheapest loan that you will ever get from any bank out there, especially in the early days of your business. So that's one thing to know about. The next one is CBILS, which is if you're looking for more than 50,000, let's say 50,000 to 250,000, you're still not having to guarantee it. Government still pays your first year's interest repayments, and they will guarantee 80% of it. But what they're saying to banks is they cannot ask for you to personally guarantee it up to the first 250,000. And so these schemes are probably the mainstay of how businesses are managing to get some cash into their business and survive during this period. Other things I'm sure you're aware of, because your local council has probably been in touch with you if you're paying business rates under the small business rates relief scheme. Then your local authority should have contacted you and proactively let you know that you're entitled to a grant, and that's 10,000 if you're not within the following three sectors, which is retail, hospitality, and leisure. So 10,000 if you're not in those sectors. If you are in those sectors, it's 25,000. If you are paying business rates and you fall within any of those categories, and your local council hasn't been in touch with you, then contact them and say you want to apply for your grant. Next thing to know is there's just another pot of funding, and it's for businesses that maybe are looking for equity investment in their businesses, or they are maybe you are innovating something, you're in the middle of some R&D and suddenly the world fell apart. So there's two other schemes the government brought in. The first one is in relation to Innovate UK, which is the UK grant agency that looks after all businesses that are innovating. And so they have a new scheme. There are grants available and there are also loans available, and the typical amount that they are distributing is 175,000. They were focusing originally on their own customers that they already had, that they'd already given grants to, but now they're extending it out to new applicants. And then the last one is in relation to investment. If you've raised investment in the past of up to 250,000 and you need to go and raise some more, then there is what's known as the Future Fund. That's been completely oversubscribed, and so it looks like the government may come out and announce an extension of that scheme, so one to be mindful of. Other things to know, and just in case you haven't heard, you are able to defer your VAT bill from that first quarter where your bill was perhaps due at the end of March or the end of June, and you can get that automatically deferred to March 2021. The second thing, which people aren't talking about so much, is you may also have other bills due to HMRC in terms of NI contributions or corporate tax return, and you just simply don't have that cash reserve left to pay it right now. You can contact them and ask them to defer that payment and work out a payment plan with them. And those things can be the key things that help you unlock a bit more cash, whereas previously you thought you were going to have to hand that over. So this is just another, as I've mentioned, the Innovate UK grant one, the Future Fund one. There's just one other, two others there, 3 and 4. There are other competitions that Innovate UK are now running, specific for businesses that might have a solution for society, in some shape or form, being able to support some element of us reacting as a society to COVID-19. They're running them as very quick competitions in comparison to how Innovate UK normally operates. It's quite a lengthy process. So that's one to check out. You can just go and register, build your profile, and then they'll notify you on email notifications when something occurs. And then the last one is if you're a young business and let's say you've fallen between the cracks of say Bounce Back, Sibbles, none of these things are right for your business. So for example, you might not have revenues of £8,000, you might be pre-revenue, you might even also already have a Bounce Back and it's still not enough. So if you're a business that's 2 years or less from the date of your trading, then you are entitled to a government scheme called the Startup Loan. And you can raise up to £25,000 per founder of the business or per director of the business. And that scheme has been around pre-COVID. It's a very successful scheme in terms of helping startups get going. And then your first 6 months, you have a capital repayment holiday. So you just pay the interest. The interest rate is about 6%. You can repay it anytime you want. If you say take out 15,000 of a startup loan and then you realize, actually, I wish I'd gone for the full 25, you can apply for what's known as the second loan. So getting yourself the balance up to the 25,000. So it's just worthwhile knowing about other things that are out there. And quickly just wanted to touch on you may have bounced back, you may not. None of these things may have meant anything to you yet on this webinar. So just to make you aware, if you're ever thinking about finance products, whether that's a loan, whether it's a grant or investment, just remember your bank isn't your only port of call. Your bank is one of hundreds of options that are out there. And just because they say no does not mean that you are not an eligible business for other funding. Different lenders have different criteria for different reasons. So don't feel like, oh, my business must be terrible because my bank said no. Join the rest of the world because that's normally what a bank has to say. And also, certain loans are good for certain things. So, for example, if you're reopening, you might be refitting a premises, you might need to buy some new machinery, you could look at asset finance. You might have already got the machinery and you've paid for it out of profits or cash. You could refinance that asset to unlock cash within your business to give you that working capital you need to survive. You might have invoices outstanding, and this is one area where people are delaying paying, and particularly the larger organizations. So if you're supplying large organizations and you're really struggling on them paying you on time, then you can raise finance on the back of those invoices, and that's invoice finance. You might have credit card terminals, you might have an e-commerce site, you might have a restaurant, and you're thinking how I need to get more cash flow in. Merchant cash advance is around when you use credit card terminals, they can assess what did your sales look like through those terminals pre-COVID-19. They will say, oh, well, if you're getting back running into business, what we'll do is we'll advance you a loan based on what we see as your typical sales. And how we get repaid is every time you make a sale, we take a percentage of that as a repayment. So it's a pretty good way where you're not locked into a fixed amount because you don't know what your sales are going to be. It's a pretty good way to get some advanced cash into your business. Other ones to know are if you have submitted an R&D tax credit claim, it's taking ages for HMRC to be able to process them understandably. So there's now facilities where you can get a loan in advance of whatever your claim amount was. And other areas to think about, equity investment. You might not want lending in your business. You might not like the feeling of having debt or extraordinary amounts of debt. You should also look at equity investment, and there are schemes out there where looking at raising up to £150,000. There's a great tax relief scheme to get high net worth or angel investors into your business, and then you might need some more, so you can go up to 5 million with some other schemes. So it's just keep it in mind as another alternative to keep going. And then the other one that I love to remind people is we're really good in our personal lives at looking at cutting costs, at looking at, can we afford the mortgage, and how do we meet our mortgage repayments every single month. It's absolutely no different when it comes to a business loan. And so what we do at Swoop, which I'll fill you in on, is essentially looking at what services are you paying for that you don't realize you're overpaying for, and where can we get cash back into your business, and whether that cash is then to use to pay off your bounce back loans when the holiday period is over, where you need to start getting into monthly repayments, or whether it's just getting a cash back into your business so you don't have to take out a loan. The obvious ones that I'll mention to you, and it's not just me talking about them, the Competitions and Market Authority in the country talks about it all the time because we're all being overcharged, and that's in the areas of utilities. It's also in the area of if you're using your bank account for international payments, you're way overpaying. If you are actually your bank account, I don't know whether any of you notice or not, but your bank is actually costing you money if you're not in a bank-free period. And so we do things like comparing each one. Insurance is another one. Insurance is another one also where you might have a premium at the moment and you're not sure if you can meet it. It's okay to call your insurance company and say you need a payment holiday, or it might be the business is shut, so you want to reduce your insurance payments. You can talk to these suppliers and providers and don't feel like they're not having these conversations with others. They are. So that's a very quick synopsis. And I suppose just to bring you into, that all sounds great and probably a lot of information, and you're probably thinking, well, how do I go about accessing any of this? So, well, on Swoop Funding, the way that we work is you can build your profile in a couple of minutes on our site, and essentially you can speed it up by integrating your accounting software like Xero or Sage. You can integrate your bank accounts so that we can then return to you where you can make savings. So for example, we calculate how much is your bank charging you, and we compare it to every other bank in the market. And in terms of funding products, what we do is we calculate all of the key information that providers want to see to be able to make a decision. And then you get to see on your own dashboard what products are out there, what would I be successful in achieving, what products I could get, and knowing that you could be successful at that before you apply. And it's important not to apply for things just scattergun, because what you're doing is every time you apply for something, you're impacting your credit score, and you need to protect your credit score. It's the most important thing for you as a business. And businesses don't realize that if they go off and do multiple applications, every time an inquiry is done, it's called a hard credit check, that's reducing your score. So what Swoop does is it marries you up with the best products for you, the ones that you're going to be successful in before you apply. And then we do a bit of a off the record discussion with the lender to say, this looks like a very good case, it's met your criteria, and they give us a quick response, so that we're never submitting something that we don't believe is going to be successful and basically helps your credit score and helps you get funded faster. So the things that you can get is surfacing where you can make savings and getting cash into your business, speeding up your application process, and protecting your credit score is most important. Also, you might not be eligible for something now, but if we've got your profile, then we'll notify you when something like a grand competition opens that's of relevance to you. So these slides can be made available to you. This is just a quick synopsis, a sort of a mind map of all of the different types of funding that's out there. I'm not going to go through them again because we've just touched on them, but the purpose of this slide is to say to you, look at all the different options, look at all the different types of finance that are out there, and then all the different types of products within that. So I'm just hoping it just opens your eyes and your mind to the potential that's out there. And as I mentioned, looking at all of the potential areas, these are the averages that we're unlocking for customers at the moment in terms of insurance, utilities. And as you can see, international payments made from your bank and switching to an independent provider is one of the biggest areas of savings. So as I said, what's right for you? It's identifying. So if you build your profile, we gather all your information, we find the right funding options for you. The next bit is making sure that you're what I would call money ready. And I would encourage any of you to be money ready regardless of whether you're going for money. What I mean by that, and why I say be money ready regardless, is it means you're running your business and you're on top of things and you have the information available at your fingertips, whether a lender or an investor wants to see it, and it means you're running your business better. So relevant documentation are your latest management accounts, which if you integrate with Swoop, we pull all of that automatically. You don't have to ask your bookkeeper. We pull it for you. We pop it into a little folder for you, and then you can click on your folder in Swoop and you'll find whatever we needed to pull that we know all the lenders or all the providers want to see, and it's private to you to see. Oh, there's my management accounts. These are the metrics, all the financial numbers that a lender is going to want to see in order to make a decision. You can pop your bank statements in there, etc. And then it's your data room and your account to essentially have, regardless of where you go looking for funding. Again, you've got your central point there, and it's there. Then we would have an advisor talk to you. They're all credit experts from the banks, so ex-underwriters, ex-accountants, etc. And the purpose of Swoop is to try and give you that valuable advice that you need, in addition to surfacing what products are right for you. So that way, before you submit your application with us, we can talk you through it, the pros and the cons, etc. So that's a very quick whistle-stop tour. It's a lot of information, but happy to take any questions, and maybe there was something that stood out for you that you're worried about or you want more information on. So yeah, happy to take any questions.
Yeah, we've actually had one come through. I'm in the hospitality supply chain, as I'm in hotel architect design in hotels and pubs, etc. Will I qualify for the SVG of hospitality, as I'm registered in companies housed as architectural activities?
They are basing it on SIC codes. So you may struggle with that in terms of falling under that definition, because they are trying to use it based on government databases. But it's certainly worth challenging it and saying why you should fall under it. But they generally go by SIC codes.
How do you access the, before, Andrea, when you said about Zero and accessing people's accounts, how does that work?
Yeah, so these are all called, everything is cloud accounting now. And how it works is, normally, let's say you are sitting at your desk today and you're going to go into your accounting software. You would put in your login details and up comes your information. So what we've done is nowadays, you can build connectors. So we can connect to Xero. We connect to all of the banks. So we were chosen by the Competitions and Market Authority to be a provider that connects all the banks. And so you are logging in as if you were logging in at your own desk. And when you come on Swoop, we bring up the Xero window for you, and it says, do you want to share your information? So you log in, and then what Xero does is allows us to get the information that's required for you to be able to apply for a loan. So all we're actually doing is automating a workflow that you would probably have to do manually. So if that didn't exist, what you would normally do is apply to us or to a lender, and then the lender would say, can you provide me with your latest management accounts? You would log in, you would download your PDFs of your reports, you would then upload them to or email them to a lender. Whereas by doing it this way, we automatically pull the information that the lender wants to see and put that into your little folder, your application folder. So you just don't have to think about it or go off and find this or ask your bookkeeper, your accountant to do that. So that's how it works. They're all secure. Anyone who's connected to these has to be secure. We're regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority, so they audit every single process we have, and we're also ISO certified. So it's all about secure ways of sharing your information and reducing the hassle and the time that it takes you to do that.
That's great, thank you.
And is there likely to be an increase in applications now that lockdown has been eased and businesses are reopening, and will this make the applications harder to be accepted?
So anybody who, when the announcements were originally made, there was a mass increase in demand. Of course, everyone was looking for a bounce back or a Sybil's. And what was happening on the other side was the lenders were struggling to catch up. In fact, some of the banks are still struggling to get on top of the demand for applications. But what's happened on the Sybil's front is, and even on the bounce back front, is the government, since the first announcement, has kept adding more lenders, more approved lenders into the scheme, and more non-bank lenders and alternative bank lenders. So what's happened is the big demand is we're finally able to funnel it to a solution much faster. So yes, the demand is still there. There's definitely an increase in maybe even those who've also gone for a bounce back before and realize actually it's not enough to see me through. So we're refinancing those for Sybil's to get them a higher amount. But yeah, I'd say yes, there's the massive increase, but also there's a massive increase in lenders. So the bottleneck is now gone.
Right, we've had another question, Andrea. I'm a freelance contractor and trader. My company has been affected during the COVID-19. I've been declined from opening a business account with the big banks, which means I can't get a bounce back loan due to bad credit. I only use FinTech Bank. Is there any way, apart from bounce back loan, or any other options that I can go for?
Yes. Yes, this is a very, very common case. So don't feel like you're on your own here. This is a common complaint we hear. Yes, and it depends on where you're at in your cycle. But there are other lenders out there now. We have a new lender coming on for bounce back, and it's exactly the same terms as the banks. They don't care whether a bank has rejected it or not. So yeah, I would say if you want to register with us, we can match you to what your options are that are out there. So yeah, if you want to come on to swoopfunding.com, we can let you know what's available for you. But don't worry, you're not on your own on that, by the way. That's the most important thing to say.
We've also had another question come through. So would you say there are any dangers to taking out a Sybil's or bounce back loan scheme, and what should we watch out for?
Well, I guess before you take out any loan, it's important to know that it's a loan, which means it is going to need to be repaid. And it's good that the government has stepped in and said, look, we're going to give you a breather for the first 12 months. And a lot of the banks are actually, and a lot of the lenders are saying, oh, you might need a capital repayment holiday in addition to the interest rate holiday. So you might need 6 months of no payments whatsoever to get you through this phase. And then we can see that you're able to afford it. So that's one of the things that we do at Swoop, is make sure that you can afford the amount that you're asking for. And that's the first thing. And when we talk about afford, we're talking about pre-lockdown. So what was life like for you up to the end of 2019? What did your numbers look like? And, you know, the world is uncertain, but if, let's say, we get to go back to some form of normality, what would your numbers typically look like thereafter? So that's the first thing to say. It's loans are about eventually repaying them in a way that it won't damage your business. Apart from that, there is never going to be a better loan scheme available. So, you know, a bounce back loan being 100% guaranteed by the government is a once in a lifetime situation. The Sybil's loan, not being asked for a personal guarantee up to 250,000 is amazing. The interest rates being offered are just like, again, if you're a growing business, it wouldn't have been achievable pre-COVID. So it's not a bad time actually to be a young business, a startup business or a young business or a growing business, because suddenly there are these products available to you that wouldn't have been available pre-COVID. So you can use certain things to your advantage to maybe get your growth back up and running again.
Thank you.
Right, we've had another question, Andrea, from Steve, who says, hi, we're looking to take over a food service company that's now going into liquidation over the next couple of weeks. We're going to purchase
Yes.
customer ledger, stock, equipment, and retain 15 out of the 25 staff members. Who would be the best company to speak to regarding funding?
Yeah, so this is a big trend we're starting to see now, is where thankfully businesses like Steve can step in and actually buy these businesses, as opposed to them actually just going by the wayside and people losing their jobs. We've a number of M&A, acquisition finance companies, and so we actually have 2 acquisition finance experts on our team. So happy to look at the business you're buying and come up with all the different options that would be available to you. You could slice that in many different ways, particularly with there being stock, with there being assets, in addition to just straightforward. So there's straightforward acquisition finance, where we would look at the value of the business, etc. And then the other way is looking at the assets that are there and how you could refinance those after an acquisition. So there's 2 or 3 or 4 possibilities of financing that. And yeah, would be happy to help out on that one.
Thank you.
And someone said, I've struggled to find a trusted chartered accountant at affordable cost. Do you know where I can find a good one like your company to give me an entire solution during this COVID-19 furlough period and not having work on at the moment?
Yes, we have lots of accountants on our platform that help their clients come on the platform and get funded. So we'd just be happy to find out where you're located, and finding you a really good value one. We hear that a lot too. It's really hard to find one that will do the compliance stuff, like put in your VAT returns and whatever, but also be able to give you some extra advice. What we're hearing from accountants is that suddenly they've been thrown into being finance advisors, as in funding advisors, and it's not really their comfort zone to be telling or working with clients on what products, and suddenly they find themselves doing Sybil's applications. So we're helping a lot of them where they're just onboarding everything through Swoop. But yeah, again, it just depends on where the customer is. But if they want to just drop us a line on Swoop funding, I'll make sure that we get some options available for them.
Right, are there any resources that people can use to make sure accounts and forecasts are in an acceptable format for applications, Andrea? And is there anything business owners can do to maximise their funding applications?
Yes. So with Bounce Back, it's a pretty simple process. It's a few questions. You're self-certifying everything. You're not having to give additional information. So that's fairly straightforward. With Sybil's, it's more. There's more information required because the amount is higher. One of the things that is sort of specific to Sybil's was your cash flow forecast. And what we discovered was the lenders were looking for certain items to be thought through by the business, and they wanted to make sure that the business had maximized every other government scheme that was out there, in addition to going for Sybil's. So what we did was we worked with a company called Futurely, and they do cash flow forecasting. And we gave them all of the rules that all of the lenders were looking for within a cash flow forecast. And we asked them to build us a specific Sybil's cash flow forecast tool that you can integrate, whether it's Xero or your Excel spreadsheets or whatever it is, into this tool. And then it will have all of those fields pre-populated in there. So on Swoop, we have a link that then allows you, as you're going through your Sybil's journey, to click out into that and build your cash flow forecast. That's one item. The second one is the the latest management accounts. Depending on the age of your business, they're also looking for your full set of filed accounts. So if your business is 3 years or more, they'd be going back as far as 3 years. And mainly what they're looking at there is your balance sheet. The other thing they'll look for is 3 months bank statements, and then an understanding and a sort of a statement on how was your business impacted by COVID. They're the top items that are needed.
Great. And someone's just asked, if I can apply for both Civils and Bounce Back, which one would you suggest I choose?
Yeah, I'll give you the pros and cons of both. So Bounce Back is the easiest one. Well, I say technically the easiest one. The form is shorter for Bounce Back. The checks are less. So if you need more than 50,000, Bounce Back's not the way to go. If you think 50,000 is enough, then Bounce Back, obviously, it's about 8 or 9 questions and you submit it. The downsides of Bounce Back are, it depends on who your primary bank is. The banks, as I mentioned, some of them are really struggling with the volume. So we have a lot of customers who come to us and say, like, I applied to my bank like 7 weeks ago and I haven't even got an acknowledgement that my application went in. Like, what's going on? So and the government heard all of this sort of feedback of I can't get it. So we've got another lender, an alternative lender, non-bank, who is now just been accredited by the government to offer Bounce Back. So we've about 4 non-bank Bounce Back lenders. So that's the pros and the cons if you go through one of your primary banks. Civils is and don't underestimate what you need to get through this. Civils is better if you need more than 50,000. And as I say, they're asking for more information, but the way I look at it is the information they're asking for are things that you should have anyway. Like, you shouldn't go for a loan unless you have a cash flow forecast that tells you personally, do I think I'm going to be able to afford it? Worst case scenario, the world doesn't open up as fast as we expect it to, etc. So I don't think it's that onerous what the Civils application is. The other thing that you could do is apply for your Bounce Back, and then as you go on and you might realize, oh, it's not enough for me, then you can actually refinance it and go for a Civils. So that's kind of how you could navigate that.
Is there any charge for using the Swoop platform, Andrea?
Yeah, no, so basically it's free to use. I guess just if I correlate it to, let's say, your personal lives, you might go to moneysupermarket.com or compare the market, and we're in a similar situation. So the lenders all pay us a standard rate because we're doing the heavy lifting for them. So when we deliver an application to a lender, it's in what they would call underwriting ready phase. So they haven't had to have spent time in getting the business to a point of getting it to underwriting. So they share their arrangement fee with us. In terms of the government schemes, they're not charging customers for that arrangement fee because the government is actually paying it. So whatever the government gives them, they share with us in 50-50, so that we can sustain running our platform as well. So the idea of Swoop came from, I was a corporate finance advisor having left KPMG, and I really wanted to work with companies who really needed the help and they couldn't afford a corporate finance advisor. So I was thinking, okay, how can I build something that gives them everything? You have everything in front of you for free, and you can decide never to go for a product, but at least you know how you're doing and what your business is eligible for. And then we can find a model where the market can pay for it as opposed to you having to pay for it as a young business growing. So that's how we work.
That's great, thank you.
Great. And so you mentioned there, about doing the heavy lifting for them throughout the process. So how is Swoop currently helping business owners with the funding application and throughout the process? And do you have any specific examples of this?
Yeah, we so if I take a Sybil's application, for example, we have many customers who come and say, oh, I've submitted this to my bank, either hadn't heard back from the bank or they were rejected from the bank. So they build their profile on Swoop, and in minutes, we are seeing all of the key numbers, and we're able to say, yes, you're eligible, or no, you're not, or you're eligible for this type of product. So we're speeding that up, and then ensuring that every piece of information we have is then delivered in a way that the lender wants to see. So, we actually have compressed the Sybil's application process in terms of, we've had customers come on a Friday, and by Wednesday the funds are in their account, and the reason behind that, and when we talk to accountants, so I ran a webinar for 500 accountants, and I was like, just tell me your woes, tell me what are you finding challenging at the moment. And the accountants were saying it was taking them 3 days to prepare a Sybil's application for their clients. And I was like, oh my goodness, like it takes us like under a half an hour, because we're automatically pulling all the key information. And then the half an hour or the hour that's required is actually speaking to the business owner and saying, tell us some more, tell us about your life, what's happening for you at the moment, how is COVID impacting you, and then just piecing that together for the lender. So it's just taking that bit out. Also, many are just not getting response. So we're integrated with all of the banks. So we have a direct line into the banks where every day we have a call and we say, here's the cases we have. The traditional banks are still really manual, like in their processes. So, but we've worked out a methodology of getting at least a response, whether it's what they give us is, we talk through the case and then they'll say, yeah, that sounds okay, or no, that's definitely not. So at least we're getting a quick no, and then moving on, because if a bank says no, which invariably they do, unless the deal is absolutely perfect, we already know, the 3 or 4 other alternatives we have available for the business owner, should the bank say no, or should the bank take way too long to come up with a solution. So the next thing I would say is, once you even have a funding solution, is looking at it again in 6 months' time, and seeing, is there a way to improve the terms, improve the rates. So a lot of the work that we do also is reminding clients, once you're 6 months into a product, we can probably get more favorable terms at that point. So there's a lot of refinancing that goes on, because it's a constant flow of getting the best deal that we possibly can for our customers.
That's great. Well, thank you, Andrea, for joining us today. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, not at all. It's just been great to share thoughts and ideas and hear, what's going on for the participants. As I say, feel free to just hello@swoopfunding.com. You can drop us a note there. We have a chat, web chat channel. There's someone on that all the time. So if there was something I didn't answer here, you can go on there and ask a question immediately, or register, and we'll get one of the advisors to call you and talk you through your options. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Great, thank you for joining us, and thank you for watching. If you'd like any more information, we have a number of articles and how-to guides to businesses if you go to our website at www.weareumi.co.uk. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.